Here we are, first Sunday in December, and Mark, what a song. I think we've all had that moment where whatever traditions we follow, whatever holidays we celebrate, there's going to be some sort of a gathering task, job, something that we just feel kind of about. And yet we gather up and do it. And it's made more complicated by just how complicated the world is right now. Even if our families and our friend groups are in complete peace and ease and blessings to those where that is true, the world isn't. The news has given us all kinds of things to stress and worry about, and it can feel so complicated. So I went to a place for wisdom that I often go to when I'm feeling like I'm not quite sure where to even begin this process, and that is the back of the Science of Mind textbook. That thing has sections, did you know? There's, kind of the intro, beginning, basics of Science of Mind section, and then you've got, your healing stuff, and you've got your how to be a practitioner chunk, you've got your all about Jesus chunk. It's a big fat chunk too. And then after that, there's a section called meditations. And they're these little quippy, short readings, often very poetic, that are designed to help us deepen into a specific truth and find comfort. And I found one called A Song of Hope. So that is the name of the talk today, and we're going to be deepening into this idea of a song of hope. How do we find it? How do we live into that? So of course we have to look at our paths. Every path leads home, but what paths might we be playing with today? We're looking at three in particular that I noticed. The path of communion, which is connecting with indwelling spirit. The path of self-reflection, really deepening into our own understanding of ourselves. And the path of connection, of reaching out and being one with everyone with whom we meet. Holidays can be hard. And finding joy in the midst of that can be challenging, which is interesting, I think, because what I call the holidays of light. There are, I believe Reverend Karen said, 24 different holidays in the month of December, and almost all of them have a direct reference to light in some way as a symbol of hope and of carrying forward. As you probably know, I come from the pagan tradition, and we have Yule. We light a bonfire, and what are we doing? We're summoning back the sun. We're reminding ourselves that no matter how dark and cold it gets, the sun returns every year. And to demonstrate our faith in that truth, we share food, which is not such a big deal when we live in the land of Trader Joe's. But if we think about people in Northern Europe, where Yule was originally celebrated, in the medieval times, they didn't necessarily know that the food was going to last all winter. They met a very real risk of starvation or of dying of freezing cold. And yet they still chose to gather together and share what they had, because they knew deep down that sun was coming back, that the food was going to last, and that being together was the way to energetically make sure it happened. Over and over again in these holidays, we see these traditions. Follow the star. The lamp stayed lit. Decorating trees with candles. Luckily, we've got a little bit more fire safety now. We've got the electric lights that are less likely to catch our tree on fire. But over and over again, we're signaling our need as humans to know that the light and the truth that it represents is always coming back for us. That we can call it forth intentionally. So when I think about that idea of connecting with hope, connecting with light, this is what A Song of Hope says in the meditation. My life is in thee, O inner presence. I look upon thee, and hope springs forth into realization. O hope within me, undying evidence of good. Thou dost completely hold me in thy loving embrace. And from this fond caress, assurances shall be born, and confidence and love. Now, you may need to, for your own joy, kind of rewrite that into English. If you love the dost and the these and the thous, just stay in that place. Let us do this thing over here. Let's make it be a little bit of English. I find my life in my own inner presence. And when I pay attention to that, I feel hope, and it's real. Hope within me is my undying evidence of good in this world. I can rest in it. And in that rest, I feel assurance and confidence and love. Isn't that lovely? Just breathe into it. So you may not have noticed, Ernest is sneaky this way, but he has built into this some instructions, as he often does. So the first thing I'm realizing, if we're going to embrace this idea of a song of hope, is first we have to learn to listen for the song. We have to notice that it's playing at all. And where is it playing? On the inside of our own selves. We have to pay attention. He says, my life is in thee, O inner presence. Don't let that thee confuse you. He's using what we call the I-thou relationship with indwelling spirit, because sometimes you want to say, I love you, I love you, I love you. And it's indwelling spirit, and it feels a little weird going, I love you, I love you, I love you. But that is what we're doing. That is what we're doing when we speak in the I-thou. It shows up in songs like Use Me by Ricky Byers-Beckwith. It's not talking to some absent being that's out there somewhere. It's talking right here. Voice inside me, use me for the good of the world. So we call into that voice. My life is in thee, O inner presence. I look upon thee, and hope springs forth into realization. I listen for the song of hope. I look for the evidence of hope. And it bursts forth on the inside of myself. But if we're not listening for it, if we're not paying attention to it, it doesn't matter. Whole choirs of angels could be singing around us, and they are. But if we're not listening for it, we will miss it. We'll miss it entirely. How do we learn to listen? 2 good ways. Lots of ways, but 2 good ways I can list today. The first is the turning within. Through meditation, through quiet contemplation, and we are listening not for the thoughts of our human brain. It gets listened to a lot. It can take a break. But we're listening to that call that comes from the inside, that's the call of the heart, that is the truth of the one speaking right here. We look everywhere for signs, don't we? And we listen to people like me, who mostly just really like microphones. But I don't know anything that you don't have access to. I don't know a single thing about the truth of the universe that you don't have access to right here, right where you are. But we have to learn to look for it. And then we have that tricky thing. Maybe you don't have it. I hope you don't. But just in case, I'll list it. That thing where you hear the voice, and the voice tells you to do the thing, and you think, now how do I know that that's truth in me and not just my ego or my human brain or my preferences? Well, here's a hint. If it's saying Oreos, 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 that's probably not inner truth. But we can double check, we can verify. And a really beautiful way to verify is to go to the wisdom source of your preference. Is it Ernest Holmes? Is it the Bible? Is it the Talmud? Is it the Bhagavad Gita? Is it your favorite philosopher? Is it humanist texts? Go look there and check. Does it match? Does it fit? Does it fit with what you have decided truth is? And if it does, relax. We're all going to relax together. You ready? Relax. We would all be served to lay down our fears that we're doing it wrong. There's no way to do life wrong. If we are doing life-affirming things and something slides out of our reach that we thought we wanted, one of two things is going to happen 100% of the time. Either it was not actually for you and eventually you'll be able to see that, or it'll circle back around in another form. The law of divine compensation says we can never lose that which is ours to have. It will keep circling back to us. We might lose that relationship, but we can't lose the concept of love. We might lose that job, but we can't lose the concept of our own abundance. It will keep coming back to us over and over again until we are ready to claim it. And that is one of the most relaxing things I have ever learned. It let me calm the bleep down. When we turn outward to seek truth and we turn inward and we verify that it matches what we feel in the center of ourselves, what we're doing is tuning in to the song of hope. The song that tells us it's going to be okay. The song that tells us it's going to get better. The song that tells us the best is yet to come and is inherent. And we can't miss it. We can't screw it up. We can't lose it. This is a song I really want to hear. And so it's worth the work for me to connect with that truth. Now, second, well, let me say this. If that's the best you've got this holiday season, if seeking hope and trying to tune into it is the fullest extent of what you are capable of this holiday season, only you know what's going on in your world. But if that's true, that is enough. That is more than enough. Rest in it. Feel free to meditate for the rest of this message. If that feels like, yeah, what's next? What else? Can I take it deeper? Can I go further? Keep listening. If we want to go deeper than just hearing the song of hope, we must learn to sing the song of hope ourselves. So how do we do that? First, we have to pay attention to how we've been changed by listening to the song of hope. We have to notice how we are different. You may find that things that used to drive you absolutely bonkers, just out of your mind nuts when you saw them or heard them, now are, mildly irritating. Feel into the difference between mildly irritating, like enough to make a joke with a girlfriend over lunch versus calling your mother to yell. How different that feels in your body. And then the day may come when it happens, whatever the thing is, and you don't even notice. And somebody says to you, can you believe that so-and-so did the such and such? And you're like, I didn't even notice that she did it. And the moment of triumph when you realize that you have freed yourself, you have unburdened yourself, you have released the chains and the shackles of bondage to that fear or that belief or that frustration or that wound. That's hope. That story we've been lugging around for, I won't say how many years. We'll say 5 years or 50 or 80 years. I mean, I imagine a wagon, like a little children's wagon, just loaded, like up this high with garbage. And we drag that sucker with us everywhere we go. And then we wonder why it's so hard. Put it down. Put it down. When we realize how much we have shifted from listening to that song of hope, for looking for the truth that works for us and then having it resonate on the inside of us and finding ways for those to match up, we shift. We become different. In a song of hope, it says, this is a shortened version, "O hope within me, undying evidence of good. Assurances shall be born, and confidence and love." When we accept that there are everywhere available undying evidence of good, and that it is changing us by bringing us assurance and confidence and love. We can be brave enough to put down the story of why we can't do the thing. It's so you don't understand how hard it is for me. I struggle. And we all do that, right? You have this tendency to have 100 reasons to argue for why we could never be that healed, be that healthy, be that strong. It's BS. It's total garbage. We absolutely can do and be whatever we decide. But here's the deal. You have to decide if you are worth it. I once had someone throw a pillow at me when I said that in a session. You have to decide if you're worth it. Are you worth the spiritual practice that it's going to take to deprogram the old stories and set them down and choose something different? It's about self-reflection. Who am I now? What do I believe now? Not then, not when the story took place, now. And it takes choosing positivity. Now, not toxic positivity. Toxic positivity is easy. It's just also toxic. Toxic positivity is when we decide everything is fine, I'm going to ignore everything going on, I'm not going to think about my feelings at all, I'm going to put a spackle job of pretend shiny, good vibes only over everything, and I'm going to hope it all doesn't collapse in the middle of my holiday season when one person moves one too many ornaments around on my tree and I lose my mind. Hypothetically. It can't be ingenuine. The positivity has to be real. That's the trick. That's what makes it not toxic. We have to be in a place where we can look at what is and still find good in it. It doesn't mean we have to enjoy every piece. But do we have it in ourselves to focus more on the good than the irritating? More on the hope than the panic. More on the peace than on the war, on the frustration, on the terror. Doesn't sound easy, does it? That's why people don't do it. But do you know what's harder than doing the work to be a genuinely positive person? Feeling the way it feels when you're not. Having that experience of despair and hopelessness that comes from only looking at the negative. And our culture is saturated with it. It's no wonder we do it. Our whole culture is built on beating fear into us. Hopefully so we'll buy something to make us feel safer. Yay, capitalism. You know what doesn't cost a penny? Spiritual practice. You know what always works? Spiritual practice. It's like I have a message that I repeat. What we need to learn if we're going to sing the song of hope is that we are evergreen trees. That makes sense in my head. So why do we use evergreen trees in the winter holidays, in the holidays of light? I mean, they show up in almost all of them that were born in areas where evergreen trees exist. And I have an evergreen tree, and I live in Arizona. So we've learned to drag those poor evergreen trees places where they shouldn't even exist. We use evergreen. They chose evergreen because it is unchanging. Because even in the darkest, coldest winter, it stays green. It's proof that life remains. It's proof that goodness doesn't go away. And for those of us who are people of faith, it's proof that that thing, whatever we call it, God, the divine, inner wisdom, Allah, Jehovah, Goddess, whatever name we're most comfortable with, that is unchanging, and that is always present, and that life remains, and it remains right here, right where we are. It is what we are. We are the evergreens to our beloveds, to our friends, to the poor woman who has to make yet another pumpkin spice latte at Starbucks. We are that evergreen presence as we sing the song of hope by showing up in a positive, loving way where things can be hard. And if that's the most we've got, that's enough. If you're like, okay, I can do that, but I'm topped out. No, point 3, Reverend Lezli. Okay, hang out with our friends in point 1 in your meditation. But some of us have been doing this a while. Some of us have been putting in that self-reflection time and that meditation time and that spiritual reading time and that, daily substantial spiritual practice time that I like to talk about for a while. And we've noticed the changes going on in how we show up. And we've been journaling about them. Somebody just went, on the inside of themselves. I hear that every time I say journaling. Journaling. And what those of us who've been putting in that work can tell you is there's a step beyond singing the song of hope, and it is being the song of hope. It is showing up so embodied in that song that we don't have to think about, gotta be positive today, gotta be positive. It's a natural way of being. Now, this is not to say that we don't get bumped off our little pedestals every once in a while by a particularly bad driver or something our sister said. But we notice that we climb back up into our centered spot. We're back in that prayer chair pretty darn quickly because we have embodied this sense of being the light, being the hope. And what this requires, in addition to all the spiritual practice, is the decision to be a beneficial presence. Wherever we are, whomever we're with, that is the most important thing. That if there is love needed in a situation, we will be love. If there's light needed in a situation, we will be light. If there's kindness needed in a situation, we will be kindness. If there is rest needed in a situation, we will be the place of restedness. We will be a place that holds center and space for everyone else. This is what a truly deepened spiritual person seeks during the holidays of light. We have a beautiful slide of the holidays of light. And there are infinite more. You can only fit so many on a slide before it starts just looking like chop suey. But I've participated in all of those holidays, and Kwanzaa, and several more. And what I know is that when we choose to live in a world where peace is possible, where we choose to be that place of hope, change happens, not just in ourselves, not just in our families, but in the world. The song, O Holy Night, that we would consider it a classic Christmas carol, O Holy Night, but it was actually written in the mid-1800s, and it was originally written in French, and it was not popular. It was not popular at all because it was considered preachy and lectury. But then some wonderful Canadian translated it into English to use in Canada, and he translated things like, get on your knees and wait for your deliverance, to fall on your knees, oh, hear the angel voices. And in his very liberal translation, he took a song that was built to shame people. It was built to shame slave traders. Look at verse 3. And he turned it into this hopeful anthem that invited everyone to see the world differently, with lyrics like, chains he shall break, for the slave is our brother. And in his name, in the name of truth, in the name of hope, all oppression shall cease. And in his lifetime, in that musician's lifetime, that translator, that singer of songs, slavery became illegal in North America, in all of North America. All he did was translate a Christmas carol. But that carol spread, and it is still a huge, huge favorite. We forget these stories of hope underneath basic everyday things, but somebody decided. That's the through thread of these last 3 talks. Somebody decided, and it changed everything. And so we are at a place of choice. Here's the invitation. This month, there are literally dozens of opportunities to deepen into the song of hope. There's the Blue Holiday Service if you're struggling. There's 7 a.m. meditations. There's your daily substantial spiritual practice. There are parties. There's a concert. There are so many ways to touch in with that truth. The call to action is this: do whatever it takes for you to be so centered and grounded in your truth that you cannot help but be swept up in the song of hope. And so it is. Let us anchor this into prayer. How good it is to know that there is always hope, that there is always peace, that there is always an opportunity to be on the side of good. How good it is to know that within the very sound of my voice are hundreds of people who are choosing this day to be spirit in action, to be a place of loving kindness, to know the truth about our fellow humanity and claim it. How good it is to know that whatever cause or fear or pain or concern was on any heart coming into this space, that Spirit is already on it. That we are never powerless, that we are never alone. And so I speak a word of blessing over every beloved who hears this prayer, knowing that indwelling truth is already guiding and leading, knowing that the miracle of life is already healing and revealing wholeness, that there's more than enough good for us all, and that we ought have it. And so with a grateful heart, I simply let Spirit do its thing and call it all good as we say, and so it is.